BrooklineHub In-Depth is presented by the 501c3 nonprofit BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com are the proud founders of the Brookline Youth Awards. Now in its 11th year, the Brookline Youth Awards is an opportunity for Brookline residents to hear about the character, challenges, and dreams of its young people, as well as adults, dedicated to their success through the power and intimacy of video interviews shown on the big screen at the Coolidge Corner Theater. This year, the 11th Brookline Youth Awards will present Katherine Tallman, Director and CEO of the Coolidge Corner Theater, with the 2021 Ethel Weiss Service Award. Last week, our founder, Harvey Bravman, interviewed Katherine from the stage of the Coolidge. What you are about to see is the full interview between Harvey and Katherine. A 3-minute version will be seen at the 11th Brookline Youth Awards. The 11th Brookline Youth Awards can be viewed on March 8th at 7 p.m. on all Brookline Interactive Group and BrooklineHub.com channels.
I'm Katherine Tallman. I'm Executive Director and CEO of Coolidge Corner Theater Foundation.
What's your favorite thing to do? What, if tomorrow was like just a day that you could just do whatever you wanted, what would you do?
Right off the top of my head, I'd watch movies all day long. Especially now. I mean, like the Toronto Film Festival, that's one of my favorite things to do. To watch 6 movies a day, 5 days in a row. Other people would find it maddening. I find it thrilling.
Awesome. So tell me, where are you from?
I'm from the Detroit area.
So I've interviewed 3 people, 3 groups, and you're the second person who's from the Detroit area.
I've been here for 34 years though, so I'm actually more or less from here now.
So when did you come to the Boston area?
I came here in 1987 for a job with a real estate and investment firm, and I didn't know anyone. And I found the Coolidge around the corner. I had an apartment on Winchester Street, and when I found the Coolidge, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make it here.
Now, you tell me about your whole history of your connection to the Coolidge. So you came here and you lived on Winchester, which is right in Washington Square. Is it in Washington? No, it's not. It's like
no, it's in Coolidge Corner. So yeah, so I moved here, and I found the Booksmith and I found the Coolidge, so I felt pretty good. And then I got assigned to a portfolio of assets in Arizona, so I was gone almost all the time. I came back here to check my mail, and when I would come back, I would read these things about the Coolidge maybe like closing and going down, and then I would go away and come back, and I would just follow like peripherally all these different steps, and then ultimately the community saved it, and you know, thankfully from all of us that happened. And who would ever dream that so many years later I would first be asked to join the board, which was a thrill in and of itself, and I was on the board for 5 years, and then become the executive director almost 8 years ago now. So it's, you know, you can't make it up. It's like a movie.
Well, when you were on the board, what was that like to be on the board of the Coolidge? Being
on the board of the Coolidge when I first joined was, I wouldn't say it was intimidating. I didn't really know anybody, but the Toronto Film Festival happened pretty shortly after I joined the board, and that was the time when we actually still took trips and had board members go to the festival. So I got to know a lot of people over the course of that weekend, just standing in line with people and having dinner with people. So I got to be a part of the board that way. And ultimately, I became chair of the Nominating and Governance Committee and the vice chair, and I was on the Finance Committee. I stepped off the board at one point when Joe Zena was planning to retire. I was asked to step off the board to do an organizational assessment to determine what we really needed, what the organization really needed, and to maintain that independence. So I did that, which turned out to be just a phenomenal background because I interviewed every staff member. I spent 3 months in the office, and I really got to know the Coolidge inside and out. So when the former executive director, the person who followed Joe, left, I stepped in on an interim basis, and it was easy to do because the staff knew me and I knew them and I knew the operation. And then I applied for the job, which I wasn't even sure I would. I just wanted the best person for the job. And I did apply for it, and there was a national search, and I was selected, and here we are 8 years later.
Wow, that's an incredible story. What's it been like to be the executive director, CEO of the Coolidge?
It's been by far the most rewarding job anybody could ever ask for, until the last year. I mean, and even then it's been rewarding, but it's just, you know, combined everything that I loved and everything that I was good at. I had 30 years of business experience. I'm a CPA. I know I can walk my way around a financial program. I love film. I like mentoring a small group of people. I shouldn't even say that because, I mean, this team is, nobody really needs mentoring. I like working with a small team of people all committed to the same endeavor with the same values. I was never big on hierarchy or bureaucracy, and we just have a very flat team that works just perfectly with no politics, and it was so refreshing to work in this environment. I mean, one of the things I really love about this is that my management style, such as it is to just work with really good people and let them go, let them do their thing. And the people that I've worked with, this team in particular, people know when they should stop and ask. And we also, we're very collaborative, so there are very few decisions that get made independently. We really come together with everything, and I'm a very collaborative leader. I like to get input from everybody before I make a decision, and it would be a rare occasion for any of us to make a decision unilaterally.
You really believe in empowering people.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell me, sort of walk me through, well, two things. Before we get into the last year, tell me a little about the expansion.
The expansion. So that actually goes back to when I was on the board, because as part of the board strategic planning process, we needed to ensure the financial and cultural long-term sustainability of the organization. So we knew that we would have to have more seats, more theaters at some point, because we were capped out. We're so space constrained here. And we had already built out the two small theaters, so we had built as many seats as we possibly could build. So it was on the drawing board for a long time. Then we hired a consultant to do a feasibility study to see if we could even begin to raise the money that we needed to raise for it, because the Coolidge had never been really that active in fundraising. There was a membership program and there was an annual appeal, but it really was never very, I didn't say aggressively pursued. I mean, I think that people donated so much at the beginning to keep the theater intact, and there wasn't a professional development department. So the consultants that we hired actually said at the beginning, well, the good news is the well's not empty because you haven't been going to the well, so you've got nothing but upside here. So they told us at the time that they interviewed 50 people and thought that we could raise $5 million, which at the time seemed to be the right amount of money. That was several years ago. That number has more than doubled now, but we are close to achieving that goal. So within the next few months, we haven't gone public with this announcement, but we've been through all the town of Brookline committee meetings to get the permits. We've had unanimous approval across the board in every meeting. Everybody's so excited about this project, which really was an extraordinary balance to what was going on in the other parts of the world, of our small world. You know, we were closed. We can talk about what we did during that time, which made it seem like we were open, but on one hand, we were stuck in like the current that everybody else was we were just trying to survive like everybody. And then on the other hand, I'd have these weekly meetings with our architects and with the town and all about the future and this gorgeous building and how great it was going to be, and everybody was so excited. And so it really added so much perspective to like, okay, we're in this place now, but there will be a tomorrow and it will look like this. We were showing movies 1 hour, and the next hour we weren't. I had been, and I think I probably saw you there, to the Brookline Teen Center Gala on one Saturday, the Saturday before we closed. And on Sunday morning, Peter and I went to Bermuda because I really needed to get out of town for a while, and we had planned to go to Spain initially, and then it became increasingly clear that going to Europe was probably not going to happen. So I said, we got this like 2-for-1 thing for Bermuda, and the flight is an hour and a half, and I said, let's just go. And then I was on the phone every day in Bermuda following what was going on. We were talking to epidemiologists, like even on Tuesday and Wednesday, it was still like, okay, well, people just need to wear masks or they need to wash their hands. And actually, I skipped a part because the day of the Brookline Teen Center Gala, that was a Saturday. So I came in here and I typed up these signs, wash your hands, don't come in if you don't feel good. There wasn't even a mask mandate then. And it was just like, yeah, if you have a fever, don't come in. And I put the signs all over. Then I went, then I left, and then I was on the phone every day checking in. And, we all experienced the same thing, right? It happened so fast that we could hardly see what was coming. And so by Thursday, I said, we need to have a meeting with our executive board, and I got on a phone call with them. And I guess we couldn't do that until Friday, because on Friday the 13th at like 2 o'clock, I was on a phone call with our executive board, and I said, we're closing at 6. It might have been 4. We opened First Cow. We had done the 4 o'clock show, and we closed right after that. We just sent everybody home. We closed the doors, and then life went on. And it was like almost immediately people started sending us donations and words of appreciation for closing so quickly. We weren't doing anything particularly miraculous. It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time, and it did turn out to be the right thing for all of us. So it just happened just like that. So it's interesting because I've been interviewed so many times since then about like, oh, well, how did you pivot into this new world? And I'm thinking, nobody knew what they were doing. We all just like did the thing that came at us next, right? So that was on Friday the 13th. By maybe a week later, a distributor sent us an email and said, can you stream this film if we give it to you? And we said, sure, we'll try. And that led into like a complete revamp of our website and starting the whole virtual screening room. So since then, we've shown 170 films in our virtual screening room, and we've had 80 virtual film seminars. And on one hand, things change so much. And on the other hand, we look pretty much exactly the same. If you look at our website, it's great independent films, it's panel discussions, it's meetings or discussions with film directors and actors like Fred Wiseman, Willem Dafoe. We've just had the things that happen here all the time that are amazing were still happening. They just weren't happening inside.
Would, at some point, I know there was, PPP loans and different things that you could utilize to keep, the people on or keep them furloughed. At some point, I don't even know whether if there were pay cuts or if there were.
Well, again, in terms of like cutting expenses. So obviously after we closed, the first thing that I started to do was go through our expenses. What could we cut out? Well, obviously we didn't have to advertise in the Boston Globe anymore. So so I cut that down. But initially, and again, we were all, not just our big we were all naive, and I guess it's part of, it probably will be after this too, human nature to be somewhat optimistic and think that this can't be, things will get better, they'll just change, they just have to. And so we kept everybody on payroll, including our entire floor staff, until the end of April, at which point they were actually making more money on unemployment because of the supplement than they would have been making if they were working. So if I had it to do over again, I would have furloughed those people earlier. It would have been better for them. But there was such an emotional context to it. It was not like of course we have to just furlough the box office and projection staff because we're not open. It was a lot of discussion across the board and across the staff, like these people are part of our family. We weren't just going to like stop their jobs. So we furloughed about 45 people the end of April, and we kept the rest of the staff on until December. And we did that in part because we did get a PPP loan. We got one right away. It was 100% forgiven in November, and it did help us carry our administrative staff through the end of the year. And then when I was putting together the budget, when we were putting together the budget for fiscal year 21, which started in November, and I started really looking out, that was before, you know, again, something happened so fast. We didn't have any news about a vaccine in November. It just started to look like this was going to be a really long haul, and that we needed to project the absolute worst case scenario and see how long we could last. So I did that, I looked at that, and we started with a really strong cash reserve because we'd been really careful for several years and we were really good at saving money. So we had that. Our donors were extremely generous, so we had those donations. We had the PPP loan, and so we were pretty healthy. But when we started to stretch it out over the entire fiscal year, and then how many months could we go? It's the same game that everybody was playing who was unemployed, or it was like, how long can we last? And we were in a position where we were going to last for quite a while, certainly for a year, and nobody really, and at that point, then you started thinking, well, you know, if this isn't over in a year, then we all have bigger problems than this pandemic and closing the theater. I mean, life has really dramatically changed.
What was the staff's attitude like during this whole time?
What a good question. So the Coolidge staff is amazing. I mean, I will say, we kept everyone except the part-time staff until the end of the year. And part of that budget process where I could see where we were going, you know, I was like, how many dollars do we have and how fast do they go out the door? Because we have rent, we have insurance, we have electricity, we have phone. We have, like every business now, so much technology expense, software licenses and internet fees, and just to keep things going. So we had a pretty, you know, we had a run rate of that had to be covered. And so at the end of, I made a decision in doing that budget that we would furlough several of the office staff, which was very difficult because we are really a tight team. And I know, and we know everyone. It's not like being in the corporate world where I came from before where, yeah, you know, I feel bad, but it's like so many people and whatever, and there's a list. And this is like, no, I know these people. I know they have kids. I know their families. I know their financial situations. It was, you know, it was really painful. But we did that. We furloughed about 5 people. We're down to 10 people now. So at one point we had close to 60 employees. Now we have 10. And each one of those 10 people works 2 or 3 different jobs. And the staff all along, I mean, one of the most remarkable things about the Coolidge is the staff. I mean, I look at the Coolidge as basically, which is what makes me realize that the Coolidge it's so much more than this building. And I've said that before, but I really experienced it over the past year. Like, it's not a building. This theater is wonderful. It's beautiful. We all love to be here. But the Coolidge takes place outside this building. It's really a community. And so when we closed those doors, what happened? We still filled our commitment to our mission to entertain, inform, and engage, building vital community through film culture. We showed 170 films and conducted 80 seminars. We still had an amazing staff that, in spite of everything, you know, everything changed. We had to change the website. We had to change every way that we do business. And instead of people just like falling down, everybody took on every new problem as an opportunity and to do something. I've never worked with more creative, committed people. And now I'm like on it and talking too much, but it's like, after spending, and I don't want to diss the corporate world too much, but I did spend most of my career in the business world, and people were pretty narrowly niched. You know, I'm a CPA, I'm an MBA, people all majored in finance or they were lawyers, and I will say, working with a team of people who are all liberal arts majors, I mean, there couldn't be a more adaptable, creative, flexible, bright group of people to work with on any problem. This team could solve any problem.
I've done a lot of events here, and it's, now I'm used to it, you know, showing up here and knowing that there's a whole team of people. But and I've learned the difference between the Coolidge and other theaters by taking a film around and
That's
renting
right.
a bunch of theaters that they would always remind me of what the contract said or what, there's always like some, contracts are just, that's not.
When you get to the point of needing to look at the contract, you have a bigger problem.
Right, right. It's like, no, we're supposed to look out for each other's interests to make this work for everybody.
Right.
And it's just amazing, and to work with a team of people that they care just as much about the success of what you're doing as you are, so that you feel that they're on your team. And especially like the youth awards, because you've got a lot of moving parts, and the theater is donating it to the community, and but still, it's.
And you want it to be good. I mean, I think the thing that I really see across the board with my colleagues, and certainly with myself, is there's so much pride. Everybody takes so much pride in what they do. Everybody wants to do a top-notch job to make everything as good as it can be, and then we will figure out how to do it better next time. Whenever we do a Coolidge Award or some other big event like that, I always say, we could produce the Oscars, no problem. And we could.
Right.
I think that, part of that too speaks to how we operate as a team. Like, nobody ever, comes down on somebody for making a mistake. It's just like we own everything collectively. We own the success, we own the problems, and we all work together, and nobody blames anyone for anything. We just make it better the next time.
Tell me about the future.
The future is coming. We're talking now about reopening, so probably middle of May we will start a gradual reopening. In part, it's gradual because we have no idea when people will come back. A lot of people are vaccinated now. Certainly the majority of our demographic will be vaccinated by now, but we're still constrained by social distancing limitations, which we appreciate. And if you look out here, you see all the strap seats. We have 440 seats in here, and we can have 66 people in here. So one of the reasons we weren't all that anxious to open before, in addition to not thinking it was safe enough for our staff or our patrons, was that we can't make enough money on 66 seats to even justify anything. So we started doing the private movie rentals, which have been really successful for us, and have gotten people to be able to come back and enjoy the theater and feel safe about doing it. So we're going to continue those private movie rentals upstairs. We're going to open this house on a gradual basis, maybe like a few shows on the weekend, maybe Thursday night, and we'll see how it goes. Another thing that we had to do, well, besides all the COVID protocols that we put in place, like when you look around now, you'll see all the new plexiglass, which were built by the Makery, the folks at the Makery, Haley and her husband, and they're just gorgeous. There was a lot of work to do to get the COVID protocols in place. So in order to reopen, we need to have a seating reservation system, and that seating reservation system has to be dynamic, so that if two people, because right now we have seats that are open, so if you look really hard, you can find 2 seats over there and 2 seats over there. But if you came in with your family of 4 people, you'd want to sit together. So we have to have a seating system that will allow you to pick seats and then dynamically adjust the spacing so that the next seats that are open are at least 6 feet away from the farthest point of those seats. So there's a lot to it, and we're testing that system now. We're getting there. We're getting there, and then we'll see how it goes. And I think one of the things that we've certainly all learned is just to expect uncertainty, expect change, things that we really probably should have recognized as human beings before, but it was never quite thrown so much in our faces as it has been lately. That, you can make plans. Plans are made to be changed, whether you change them or not.
What are you going to see when you're parked your car and you're walking toward the Coolidge. What's that?
I think you're
experience?
leading the witness.
Yeah, what's that? Take us on a guided tour of the
Well, first
future.
of all, let me go back because there's something that I absolutely want to cover, and that is that even though our doors were closed, the Coolidge remained the same. We were fulfilling our mission with high quality independent films, discussions with filmmakers, panel discussions, science on screen, panorama, all of our special programming. So we looked a lot the same as we do when we're open. We still had the same phenomenal staff doing phenomenal things, albeit behind the scenes and on screen. We still had a great board supporting us. And most importantly is we still have the community, and the Coolidge community just came out so powerfully. They have before. We knew that they would be supportive, but the number of donations that we got, and including 400 new donors from across the country, was just staggering. And the money was certainly necessary and certainly helpful, but the messages of support that we got really kept us going. I mean, there are times when I opened the mail, which all comes to my house now, and I would just, my eyes would fill up with tears because the messages are so kind. We miss you, we love you, hang in there, we can't wait to come back. And so that just made us realize that we weren't alone in this. There's this giant community that is just carrying this whole thing along until we can all get back together. In 5 years, what does the Coolidge look like in 5 years? Well, I hope the Coolidge looks a lot different in 2 years. We do have a plan to expand the theater. We're just in the final phases of raising major gifts, and then we will launch a public campaign. And we know, based on the support we've seen so far, and especially during this really difficult time, that we'll continue to get a lot of support. So the expansion will almost attach to the back of the building, so there won't be any disruption of current operations, or not very much. And the construction will take place from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. That's when we're closed anyway. So it pretty much goes right on the back. We don't dig into the ground. There'll be a new lobby, which everybody will be thrilled to see, because we all know how much fun it is to stand outside in the freezing rain while you're waiting to come into a movie, because we don't have any space in our lobby to accommodate lines. We don't have enough space to accommodate concession sales. So there'll be this nice lobby, and that's the first floor. On the second floor, there will be a new 150-seat theater, so we'll be able to open more feature films. We've always been constrained by how many films we can open. We've always had to pass on film offers. We've had to move films out before they were ready to go out. I mean, probably you as a patron would sometimes go like, wait a minute, I was going to go see that movie at the Coolidge and it's gone. What happened? And then on the third floor, there's a 50-seat theater and a community education and engagement center. So we're really excited about that, because then we can have our after-film discussions, we can have our film seminars there, we can really expand our reach into the community by working with more and more partners. We work with a lot of partners already, but we want to build more collaborations across other nonprofits and get younger people in here, get more diverse audiences in here, and we'll finally have the room to be able to do that. Oh my goodness, what I would say to the young people, the Brookline Youth Awards, first of all, I can't applaud you enough for doing this. You're adding something to all these individuals' lives that they will never forget, that are so important to them. So kudos to you, and thank you for doing that. And we're so happy that we can be supportive. I'll miss being here with all the families and all the people, but we'll do what we can, and next year it'll get better. And I think this whole program says so much about what's really important in being a human being and in contributing to the planet. And it's not just GPA, and it's not money, and it's character. It's character and determination, and it's characteristics that will get all these wonderful young people through the rest of their lives, and will help them help so many other people. It's like this pebble in a stream that each one of these kids is going to go like boom and make a big difference in the world. And I'm so grateful for that.
Tell me about what it's like to get the Ethel Weiss Service Award.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's hard for me to accept anything on my own, because nothing happens on my own. Everything happens with a great group of people. So I accept anything, praise, criticism, I take more of that on my own, but any kind of tribute really belongs to the whole Coolidge team and the whole Coolidge community. But one of the things I was so touched when you called me and told me, because I was like, oh my gosh, look at the people who have come before me. All my friends at the studio, we had this great event just recently celebrating the studio's 40th anniversary, and they donated all the proceeds to us, to the expansion. I love those women, Eileen and Marcy and Sandy. And Chobe Hoy, oh my gosh, we all know Chobe Hoy is like a goddess in Brookline. And from the time I first joined the board, I got to know Chobe, and I'm such an admirer of hers. And to think that I would be in the same category is Chobe Hoy and all the other awardees, all the other people in the past who have been honored with this award. It really means a tremendous amount to me. I'm really very proud.
Hi, my name is Danielle Myers of ADW Video Productions and BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com is a 501c3 nonprofit online publication dedicated to community building through local reporting and events. 2 years ago, we screened a short film as part of this event that I had the privilege of working on. Brookline Facing Civil Rights was produced by our founder, Harvey Bravman. The film is about the experiences of African Americans who helped break the wall of segregation that existed in Brookline before the civil rights laws were passed in the 1960s. Last year, the film sold out the Coolidge Corner Theater and included a panel discussion on inclusivity. You can stream the film and the discussion on BrooklineHub.com in exchange for a donation to the Brookline Community Foundation's Safety Net Fund. You can also stream Soul Witness, a film that features interviews with Brookline Holocaust survivors conducted 30 years ago, on soulwitness.org.